so they can.
We are live now.
Okay.
Fabulous. All right, okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Again, this is a meeting of the External Stakeholders Relations Committee. I have had my second iced latte of the day, so let me know if I need to slow down. Very busy time. Okay, so just to kind of go over the agenda, we've got presentations. The way these work is the committees. CAT has 3 committees, and we have a governance committee, and then we have the board of directors. And each one sort of comes together to meet with the board. During committees, we talk with staff about what we're going to be seeing on the upcoming board meeting. And it's in this situation that we're able to ask a lot of questions, get through a lot of minutia, so that during the board meetings, we can basically have a pretty jam-packed consent agenda and try to save some time. So a lot of the interesting discussions, I think, are happening in the committee meetings. That's where we get to find out the nitty-gritty and talk to staff about what's going on. We can always, as you know, as a consent agenda item, can always be pulled really easily, and questions could be asked then during the actual board meeting, but this is the format that we've been using for a minute, and this is the one that we're in. So we, Valerie, do we have any committee presentations, or is it all just under the proposed agenda items that we're going to be talking through?
You're correct.
Right.
We don't have any presentations today.
So we have no presentations today.
No.
Okay, so there are no presentations today. We've got some proposed agenda items. Are we going to go through those?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to go through some of the proposed agenda items, and those will be coming up for the board meeting at the next board meeting, whenever that is.
May 25th.
Which I think is bingo. Thank you. After we hear from staff on that, that's when all of y'all here today, Kayla, Jeb, and Armand, can bring up, I think, other topics that you might want to bring up. I would also say that as official guests of the Stakeholder Committee, if you guys have any questions for the proposed agenda items as well, I'm fine with you guys asking those here. And then if you have other stuff that's not necessarily related to the proposed agenda items, then we can bring those up on agenda topic number 4. That's pretty much the meeting, and it should be quick and easy, dirty and fun. And with that, I'll move it over to you, Val, if you want to get started with proposed agenda items for the May 25th board meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Edminster. We'll ask Mr. Cooksey to go ahead and bring us updates with the COVID-19 emergency measures.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, guests. This item is our extension of our COVID measures.
Real quick, Lenny, and this goes for everybody else who might be presenting, if you can introduce yourselves and
Sure.
your position, like real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'm Lenny Cooksey. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Chatham Area Transit. It comes with a lot of responsibility, and we're doing a lot of great things. So this particular item is the extension of COVID-19 emergency measures. This is an item we've had that we have presented since March of last year. Also, just some quick data, 26% of Georgians have been fully vaccinated, 36% with 1 dose only. The FTA mandate for masks have been extended until September 13th, 2021, which does cover all of transit. That's bus, rail, ferry, paratransit, et cetera. Every mode of transportation we have falls under that. So at this time, I'm just presenting that information that we continue to be safe and vigilant and flexible as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's all I have to present on this particular item. And open for questions.
Does that change any of the scheduling that we've got for how we'll be mandating and cleaning, mandating mask wearing and cleaning buses?
No, sir. We're going to continue to hold the line on that and continue with our current cleaning schedule and so forth right now. So, I mean, with that mandate extended to the 13th, I mean, we'll follow along the line unless there's some drastic change. But right now, we find that the public is comfortable with that. They we're getting the buses cleaned, and so we'll continue with that schedule and so forth. So no change at this moment.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, we'll move right along to Brent Dice, who is going to speak on the shuttle renewal.
Good afternoon. I am Bren Dice. I am the Chief Strategy Officer here at CAT, and my division is system development. It includes long-term and transit planning, route scheduling, innovation, and business development. I'm excited to announce that the City of Savannah is ready to restart their DOT shuttle. It is being sent to City Council for a potential June restart. And so wanted to bring it to the board that we are excited and ready to restart the DOT. This restart will include an expansion to the Eastern Wharf, as that development is just about finished in their current phase of construction. Later this year, probably, we will bring to the board the West End expansion, which will loop into the west end of downtown. And then in 2022, we hope to bring to the board the Starland District expansion, where the Forsyth Loop will loop down into the Starland District. Currently, we are planning for half capacity with our windows open and limited hours of the DOT shuttle. The limited hours will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. And we have, again, sent over the contract. Super excited to see expansion happening in the DOT shuttle, and excited to be back bringing that revenue generator back to CAT.
And she's ready to address any questions.
Bren, I have one question. It's not on the current expansion. I think it's really great that the downtown loop will be rerouted to cover Eastern Wharf and to cover, in the future, the kind of western side on Indian Street. But with the Starland loop, is that proposed to double the loop? So do one loop from like City Hall to Forsyth and then one from Forsyth to Victory Drive-ish, or is the proposal to do just one continuous loop?
We're still having that ongoing conversation with the city. So there are a couple options, but right now we're looking at adding a bus, a trolley, so that there would be 3 instead of 2 running on the Forsyth Loop, and that would allow us to maintain our time frame, but extend down into Starland.
Okay, cool. And with that route, is the proposal to continue to route it down Whitaker and Drayton, or are you looking at like routing up Bull Street or a different option?
A combination of the two is what we're looking at now. Of course, the board will get that extension proposal before that goes into effect, but we've got a couple options there and are still in discussions with the city.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to clarify, I think Kayla was talking about like really sort of 2 loops. So one that does what it does now, and then an additional loop that would sort of meet up at the park, which is one example. I think that was brought up kind of at the beginning of the conversation about expanding it. But the last draft that I saw was an entire larger loop.
I hadn't
Mr.
actually
Lockett.
seen the option with the 2 loops. So I agree with you, Director Edminster, that it's looking right now as it would be, the Forsyth would be one long loop.
And real quick, I just want to introduce Director Bobby Lockett to the meeting as well. Bryn, I've got a question on this. Looking at the table that you guys put up for DOT shuttle by monthly revenue hours, this is an estimate, right?
It is. This is an estimate based on, excuse me, based on those hours that we discussed, to that reduced schedule. And we know that this may change depending on what service is provided. But of course, any changes would also have to come before the board for review and approval.
So my thinking is like, because we saw tremendous growth in the dot shuttle month over month, year over year, right after, basically from when it had been completely redesigned up until the pandemic. It went from like 9,000 a month to like 42,000 a month. And I think as we come out of that, I don't really see any reason to expect it to plateau. I think as more people know about it and more people learn about it, those numbers are just going to kind of go through the roof. So is there, do we have capacity, or will we be able to plan for where every bus is full when that happens?
We have some flexibility with our capacity in the future. Again, the proposal that you have before you is today, not today, but June is our first step. And we have talked to the city about certainly being prepared to expand the hours, which would obviously expand the cost, increase the revenue, and be ready for continued increase of that program.
Director Edminster, if I may, the contract as it's being presented today is a modified service contract. And as we continue and as the city continues to open up the city in view of the pandemic, then we will, I guess we have to come back to the table to negotiate with them, negotiate extended hours as well. We will begin with as I said, a modified schedule and recognizing the safe distancing. So we will not be able to immediately provide for full capacity. But those things will become gradual, I hope.
Very cool.
Any more questions? No more questions? Okay, thank you, Bran. Well, I'll go right ahead into the donation policy then, since we don't have any questions of Bran about the dot renewal. This is a policy that I'm presenting to the board to make donations available through surplus materials, which might include buses, other items that have been lost and found for 60 or 90 days, to be able to allow the donations for repurposing to other agencies in the community. This would not only enhance our existing relationships, but also develop new partnerships with the general public and other nonprofit agencies as well. We currently are working on finalizing that policy, so I don't have a copy of the policy available right now, but it will be available to the board before the May 25th board meeting for your review. And as I said, this is just something that will allow staff to make these donations, whether it be surplus vehicle, service revenue or non-service revenue, or maybe even a bicycle in Takela's organization to be repurposed to be used somewhere else. So this is something we just want to put in place so that we can have the authority to do so in the future. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
I know that we have buses that are nearing their end of life. Is this in anticipation of those?
Yes, sir. We have not had a policy in the past, and we want to make sure that we have this in place, because we are anticipating some surplus vehicles to be available, both revenue and non-revenue. So we want to go ahead and put this policy in place to address that. And we think it'd be a good idea to be able to offer some of these vehicles to the community if, you know, if we can, and we realize that some will not be able to, and they'll have to be auctioned or salvaged, but we may have a few that we can offer to nonprofits. And we also will be adding an application to our website where they can apply for those vehicles.
That's sort of what I was about to ask, if you already had some organizations that you already had in mind, and how would we get the word out to everyone else that this service or this opportunity will be available for them?
Well, the plan is, as soon as we complete the policy and we take it to the board for approval, we want to publicly declare through advertising that it is available. And we want to direct those persons or organizations that are interested to our website to apply.
Great, Armand, I was about to ask the same question. So that's awesome that this would provide that opportunity. One, just other question I have in working with the police department who have a similar policy, is there a metric in the policy that you've drafted that creates like a timeline for when a vehicle is declared that it's, you know, it's no longer of use or its life cycle has ended, for it to either enter this program or be available? Just because with the police department, I know that they've had trouble keeping up with having the bikes, for example, available for us. It tends to be me reaching out and saying, hey, and they're like, oh yeah, we have 75 bikes that are now in our office, and yeah, we'd love to give them to you. We totally forgot. And then I have to go get a trailer and find a storage place and all of that. So just for your purposes, making sure that there's, you know, a time metric of every 3 months we reassess or something like that, I think would be very helpful.
Well, right now we're considering the time period of 60 to 90 days to claim your bike. And then after that, 14 days before we can donate them.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
Bobby Lockett here. How are you all doing today?
very well.
Good afternoon, Director Lockett.
Good afternoon, Ms. Reichman. What I'd like to say, first of all, I agree with this wholeheartedly, but I want to ask you to be very cautious and make sure it's been given to non-charitable organizations, and they cannot sell it within a certain time, even the group that we give it to, that they can't sell it and make a profit after we give it to them.
Okay.
So
Thank you,
that's
sir.
Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I don't have any questions on this.
Okay, and then the next item is the governance calendar, which is pretty routine for the board. It's just a matter of approving the meetings for the first 6 months of the new fiscal year 2022 to include the committee meetings, the governance meetings, and the board meetings. And they will basically follow the same schedule that we're using it right now. But the board does have to approve the governance calendar. Okay.
Looks great to me.
I didn't think there would be any questions on that one because it's pretty routine.
Yes.
And with that, we'll go into the next topic, which is the electric bus purchase change order. And Ms. Cutter will present that to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephanie Cutter, the Chief Financial Officer. And I'm just going over a proposed agenda item for May 25th, change order for the electric buses. The change order really covers the cost of electric overhead charges, which were not a part of the original purchase order. So we're bringing this before the board for approval because this additional cost is over the authority that's granted to the interim CEO. Any questions?
Yeah, so just so I better understand this topic, so we put in a purchase in 2019,
Yes.
and then the price went up by more than anybody than Valerie can authorize. And so my question is, what's the difference between what we had confirmed and what we confirm now?
The cost of the additional piece of equipment that was added to the buses. And that amount is really a little over $35,000 per bus, $35,691 per bus. So that's what the change order is about, the additional equipment that the buses have been retrofitted for. We have 5 buses already in inventory and 1 additional bus to come.
Did you say, when you said overhead, are you talking about like overhead costs or an actual overhead charger?
Overhead, an actual overhead electrical charge.
Cool.
Unfortunately, Director Edmiston, the difference in this cost was not brought to the board previously, but we wanted to make sure that the board was aware that we've already received the buses,
Yes.
and this is something that's going to be necessary. It's already been placed on the buses, so we've accepted delivery. But it should have been brought to the board before now, but it wasn't. But we're doing our due diligence and bringing it to the board at this time.
Stephanie, can you go into like the grant eligibility?
Yes, the buses are funded by FTA grant dollars as well as SRTA dollars and a little from a SPLOS fund. So the funding is in place to cover the additional cost.
And then for folks here, I think everybody gets what federal funding is and federal grants. And what is SRTA?
That is, and I'm the State Road and Tolling Authority.
Valerie, is that through the Low-No grant?
It did get from the NOLO grant. The buses were purchased through the NOLO grant. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a rare occurrence where the state of Georgia is actually helping us buy some stuff. So that's cool. Happy day. Okay, great. Cool. I mean, just for folks watching and you guys here today, I think this is a really interesting example of like how much Chatham Area Transit is able to leverage federal and occasionally state funding. We're putting like $600,000 in, and I mean, we're looking at like well over, close to $6,000 or $6 million coming from federal and state funding, which is a really great, I don't even know, what is that? Like, it's like a 1 to 100 ratio. That's pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
Anybody got any questions on that?
I just needed to add that bringing it forward to the board, as Ms. Ragland said, this is another approach that we are incorporating to do a better job of communicating with the board and ensuring that everything that needs to come before the board comes before the board in a timely manner.
Very good.
All right. Nobody else has any questions? Are we all good? We're all good. All right, great. Then let's go into stakeholder input.
Dr. Edmiston, if I may,
Yes.
we would go to the old business. I wanted to bring forth
For sure.
the security contract that staff requested be pulled from the agenda on the last board meeting because it had not yet been vetted through legal. I wanted to let you know, to inform you that legal has reviewed the contract. We have been given the go to proceed. So I'm asking that it be placed on the agenda for the May 25th, on the consent agenda for May 25th.
And that's for security for our buildings?
Yes, sir.
Got it.
If
For the
you'll
upcoming
recall
board
that-
meeting?
Yes,
Mhm.
sir. You will recall that we asked you to pull it because we had not received the go-ahead from legal yet. So they have given us that and we are ready to proceed.
Cool. Thank you. I think that sounds good. I'm agreeable to that.
Okay.
Okay. So you guys, Kayla, Armand, and Jeb are the guinea pigs for what I hope to be doing moving forwards with the stakeholder committee, is inviting different community leaders, advocates, interested members, transit nerds to this meeting, to the stakeholders meeting, which kind of makes sense, to get to know staff, to ask questions about our agenda items, and to provide any input or ask any questions, generally outside of what is on the current agenda. And so I wanted to say thank you for showing up today. That's extremely appreciated. And I guess secondarily, if any of you guys have any questions or comments or ideas, I think now is a good time to jump in on that. I think it'd be really far ranging. I know Jeb and I had a conversation. I don't know if we want to start with talking about that.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Jeb Bush. I'm the Executive Director for the Forsyth Farmers Market. Clinton and everybody, thank you for having me today. We have always enjoyed our relationship with CAT. We have many customers who take CAT to the Saturday markets and to our other stops. I had a couple of questions that this is kind of how this all started about. I got a text from one of my board members on April 28th. There was some news coverage, and it said CAT Bus Card Program. It's really tiny, the screenshot here. Connects riders with healthy food options, cards installed on CAT buses. And it takes people to stores, farmers markets, and produce trucks. I was hoping I could get some more information about that.
Mr. Turner might want to address that. Okay.
Yeah. So for everyone, Armand Turner, I work with Healthy Savannah and the YMCA of Coastal Georgia. And I'm one of the managers for their racial and ethnic approaches to community health grant. So with that initiative, I worked with Deidre Grimm, who's our nutritional program manager. And the idea was to work with CAT to sort of advertise and promote all of the nutritional destinations that Deidre and I and the rest of the Reach team works with through that grant. And so that's how that came about. And basically, we had a QR code created that took those who scanned the QR code with their phones to a landing page on the Healthy Savannah website. And it kind of listed the Fresh Express and the farm truck and the corner store initiative, all things that we do through the nutritional section of our grant on that website, as well as a link to Tide to Town as well. And so that's how that kind of came about. And yeah.
Is Healthy Savannah was one of our nonprofits that was allowed to advertise, to place interior cards on the buses. And I think it was very beneficial. It's been very, very beneficial.
And we're tracking the actual landing page website to see how effective it's been and how many people are actually, following the QR code to get to the site. And hopefully in a month or so, we'll go over what those numbers look like and see how effective they were.
So is it a program, it gives free ridership to these places?
No, the idea was just to show people where they're at. And so just to get the word out there that these places exist and how you possibly can use the CAT bus to get to those locations.
Is the Saturday market included?
I'm not sure. I don't think it is. That the good thing about the page is we have complete control over it, so we can add and take away as needed. So I can reach out to our IT people and get the Saturday market you say added.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's awesome.
We've got a new, I don't want to trip over my words and say something that I don't want to promise anything, but like we've got a new ticketing technology that's on your phones using token transit. And I think there are ways to maybe use that to provide lower cost or fare free tickets. And Val, just shake your head if I'm going in the wrong direction.
I don't like fare free.
Yeah, well, not fare free, but if there could be some sort of subsidy or some sort of grant that could be applied for where CAT is able to subsidize the cost of, moving people around to where they need to go for healthy eating options, then I think that's definitely something that we can. I think my main point is that I'd be interested in using some of the new technology we have to the full extent of what it's capable of doing. And if that means some sort of coupon discount where we're able to track and be compensated for, reduction in fares to get to a specific place for a specific reason, I think that would be something that I think the board would be amenable to, especially if it's revenue neutral. We have these new technologies really quite recently, as of like the beginning of the year, and we have a whole new intelligent transit system coming on board in the next like a year. It's going to take a while to sort of get it implemented in all the buses, but there will be a lot more that we can use with technology to I think work with different organizations to achieve some of the goals that the community has, while at the same time not having a financial impact on CAT at the end of the day.
I like the way you clear that up.
That's important. That's important.
Yeah, offline discussion, but actually the USDA yesterday released a grant opportunity, Farmers Market Promotion Program. And that might be an interesting grant to apply for together between the farmers market and CAT. But I'll reach out to you after this meeting, Val.
That's great. That's great.
And then you'll kind
Sounds
of
good.
segued into my second question, which was about the interior ads. And it sounds like, is that going to be staying with Just Healthy Savannah, or is that going to be brought back?
Well, we have actually suspended that temporarily just so that we can align it the way that it needs to be. We have maybe at one time we had 5 or 6 nonprofits literally a day asking to post interior ads on the buses. So that's another policy that we need to look at more closely, how we can accept it and when, for what duration of time, things like that. Some of the just the general operation of the policy and how we can implement it to better serve more nonprofits rather than just a few. So we have it on hold temporarily. In the past, we had an application form on the website, and we will place that again once we worked out all the kinks in it. But there are some things that need to be addressed so that we can run it more efficiently. And we will be re-implementing that as well. Yes.
Thank you, because when we did our ad and we listed out all the bus stops, the bus lines that would take you to the farmers market, we saw a great increase in number of SNAP customers who took the bus to the farmers market. So
Okay, that's great. I've spoken with Mark Bowen.
yeah,
Okay, and we have set up June 17th, actually, it's Eat Your Veggies Day. And we have set up something where he can bring his truck right to our transit center on June 17th to promote Eat Your Veggies Day for both our passengers as well as our employees.
wonderful.
So we're looking forward to that.
We're looking
Yes.
forward to that pop up. Thank you.
Yes.
While I've got you guys here, I know that the interior bus advertising was done for no cost other than nonprofits had to pay for the cost of printing and production, and then hand them over to Kat, and Kat would install them. Is that, again, I'm not deciding anything here. The board decides everything, but is a price, would that be an interesting way to limit the amount of people wanting to, or organizations wanting to advertise? Does that seem?
It would
fair?
definitely be, but we're hoping that the board would come to some nice medium where we can offer this service to nonprofits, because we serve the nonprofits in the area, in Chatham Area Transit. We serve some of the same passengers, and in the best interest of the passengers, we want to get as much information to them as possible, especially things that are going to benefit them, and things like that with Healthy Savannah and with the farmers market definitely are going to benefit them.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Do we have any timeline on getting that up and running? Because I think that could be really helpful for, and also relatively fairly straightforward. But as soon as you say straightforward, it gets really complicated.
Well, we do have an advertising policy, and as part of that advertising policy, the mention of interior cars is included, but we want to make it more, I guess, specific for nonprofits, because that's who we're offering the interior advertising to, as approved by the board.
Yeah. Well, I personally, I'd like to get that up and running again as soon as we can, or at least just dive into the conversation. Sooner we do it, sooner we can figure out what our goals are with it, and then maneuver towards bringing that back online.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Anybody got anything else to add?
Armand, do you want to talk a little bit about the neighborhood street safety audits that we're doing as part of Tied to Town? I think that can definitely tie into Chatham Area Transit, and especially, external stakeholders, neighborhood access to public transit is really important.
Before you do, is Bryn still on here? Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I just want to make sure you're in on this
That
conversation.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I never doubted that for a second.
So yeah, some of the sort of outreach we've been focusing on with the grant, specifically this year, is reaching out to communities and neighborhood associations to basically work together to perform what we call neighborhood safety street audits. And basically what this is us working with those communities to figure out how Tied to Town can basically serve them and serve those blocks and streets, and to identify what barriers may already exist in those neighborhoods that could be a little bit better with some more connections and walkability. And so we've been sort of partnering with the city to take all the information that we get and hand it over to them, and then work with those communities, as well as changing how we want Tied to Town to look for those communities, so it can be easier for them to walk and bike and move around. We actually have a app that we've developed that we're trying to get the community members to buy into and use as well, and so that they can log all that information on their own. putting in those barriers, whether it's cracked streets, cracked sidewalks or overgrowth or poor lighting or high-speed traffic. All those type of things can be logged into this app, or we have a paper version as well. And so we're just collecting all this data from these communities and then trying to use it as best as we can.
Mhm.
Yeah, and some of the other items that we're looking at it, like Armand said, how, Tied to Town is still in its visionary process. And Tied to Town, for those who aren't aware, is the envisioned 30-mile urban trail system that will encircle the city and then hopefully over the next few years provide a further 90+ miles of connectivity around the county. And so we're really interested in having communities take ownership of this. In addition to my work as executive director of Bike Walk Savannah, I also serve as the board chair of Friends of Tied to Town, because no one else wanted to do it. So yeah, we've been really working on that connectivity piece, and when we're still in this visionary process of how the trail itself is going to look. So we want really the neighborhoods to take ownership on how they can access the trail, what their entrance looks like, what their trailhead may look like, if they might need a bike lane to get there, or they might need wider sidewalks because they have a lot of families that have strollers, things like that. So, this really ties into, I think, accessibility for public transportation, accessibility for Chatham Area Transit, because our goal really is to provide not only that those recreation opportunities, but provide the necessary transportation connections for people walking, rolling, riding bikes, using public transportation, or, driving.
Okay.
So we'll definitely keep y'all up to date on kind of how we're progressing. We're hoping to work with 4 or 5 neighborhoods this year, and then continuing to work with 3 neighborhoods the following year, and I believe 3 or 4 the year after that. And then we'll be able to continuously provide our data to the city, as well as, if there's relevant neighborhoods for Chatham Area Transit, we're happy to work together on those materials.
Well, yes, thank you, Kayla. I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that you are willing to keep Kat in the loop, if you will.
Yeah, and we'd also love to set up a meeting. I know we've kind of danced around. We've always talked about Tied to Town, but we'd love to set up a meeting to talk more specifics and talk more about how our organizations can, collaborate on really bringing this vision to light.
Okay.
Awesome.
I would love to see that happen.
Clinton, you're not allowed. Just kidding.
That's just such an important part of, I think, making Tied to Town work and making CAP work better. It makes both systems more efficient.
Agreed.
Let's
schedule a meeting soon.
Are there any other comments, ideas, hopes, and dreams? All right.
I had one last one, one quick one. So Bike Walk Savannah, we're wrapping up our bike and pedestrian counts. We have another 2 weeks, I believe. I'm rescheduling some early counts to the 3rd week of May. But some of those do, overlap with CAT routes, and these bike and pedestrian counts are a mixture of intersection counts and screen line counts, where we're looking at where people are traveling and how they're traveling through an intersection, if they're biking or walking, and then if they're moving along a certain corridor or moving along a corridor like Victory Drive and using a particular crosswalk, like the new installation at Cedar Street and Victory Drive. And so I provide those counts to the city, the core MPO, as well as the county. So I'm happy to also provide them to you, Bren, just, for your edification. It's not like anything super concrete, but it may help with, if you're working on routing in a certain area, what side of the street to put the bus stop on, things like that.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, we have 19 locations for this round around the city. Ranging from West Bay to Largo and Abercorn. So we've got quite a few locations all over.
Wow, yes.
Perfect.
You've been busy.
Well, if anyone's interested in signing up for a shift, please. I actually had the opportunity, Ashley Goodrich, who used to work at Chatham Area Transit, came down and she wanted to meet up for some coffee, and I was like, well, can I tempt you with coffee at 7 a.m. and counting people biking and walking?
I'm sure she was in too.
I picked her up and I forced her
Yeah.
along.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, if nobody else has any other, whatever's, I think we're going to be good for today.
Okay.
All right. I expect to see lots of meetings and follow-ups after this, so I'm looking forward to it. All right. Well, thank you everybody for participating in this experiment, and I think it was a lot of fun. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you all for
right.
joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. We'll catch y'all later, and I'll see everybody else, whenever I do next week.
All
Yes. Bye-bye.
See y'all.
Bye.